All aboard! Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, basketball fans of all ages, I am Beast Mike. You have now arrived in my train of thought. It's time to talk about the power rankings, but before that, let's react to some trades real quick. Nikola Vucevic going to Boston is a fairly sizable move for the Celtics. They have proven themselves to be just fine to an extent without Jason Tatum, and if for some reason Tatum's able to come back for the playoffs, then the Celtics are going to be an incredibly nasty and frustratingly tough out in the Eastern Conference. What about Jaren Jackson going to Utah as the mass exodus from Memphis continues? Not just the people leaving that city. But anyway, Jaren Jackson going to Salt Lake City, playing for the Jazz in a Utah team that has got some promise and has got some bigs. Obviously, with Lauri Markkanen and Walker Kessler, and now you got a little bit of a logjam between Kessler and Triple J because they're both centers here. And of course, with Ace Bailey, and now I guess the question would be, what do you do with those four guys? Well, you're not trading Bailey, but what are you going to do with Markkanen and Kessler? They probably should have traded Kessler when his value was at its highest a few years ago. But what do you do with Walker Kessler or Lauri Markkanen if you're able to trade one of those guys? How can you pull that off? Utah's not ready to contend yet, and obviously Memphis really isn't now, because Memphis has had a rough year and change in terms of their losing their two best players. What do you even do if you're either of these teams? And then, of course, Anthony Davis earlier today. He got traded from Dallas to Washington. And obviously, I'll talk about Dallas shortly. I'll talk about Washington shortly, too. But when it comes to the Wizards, there's at least some interesting pieces now. And I like what they have as a setup with Trae Young and Bilal Coulibaly and Anthony Sarr, who can play center, while Anthony Davis can play the four. I like that look. I think that's a good setup here. Washington could be interesting in a full season. They could be interesting. For Dallas, this culminates a disastrous amount of days. I will talk about that shortly, obviously, when it comes to the Mavericks. And when it comes to their future, it's not great. It's not great. At least they got picks back for Washington. But it's not a great look if you are a Mavericks fan. And I do know a Mavericks fan. He's still not happy with Nico Harrison, and I don't blame him. Anyway, let's talk about the power rankings in the NBA. And unlike the NFL, it's going to come out a little uneven. So what I decided to do with the 4 train stops and all of that, there will be 7 teams in the 2 lower tiers. And there will be 8 teams apiece in the 2 higher ones. So that's how the power rankings for the NBA are going to always look. NHL will obviously be 8 teams apiece since there's 32 teams as opposed to 30. So let's not waste any more time and get to business. Going to Fulton, Kentucky, and seeing what teams are going to be in the first version of the zombie tier in the NBA. Sacramento, forgotten tanking. And that's kind of where we are with the Kings as of now. We're at a situation where nobody really cares for Sacramento at this moment. It's a shame because I like Domantas Sabonis and I like Keegan Murray. The Murray's had some injury issues this year. And though Domantas Sabonis, I think, would work out fairly well for a team that needs some offense and a team that can at least cover up his weaknesses defensively. They probably should flip him somewhere and just go full on with the tank because, let's face it, the Kings aren't going anywhere soon and anywhere fast. It's just not working Sacramento-wise, and they've made so many mistakes since passing on Luka Doncic and Marvin Bagley, for Marvin Bagley, I should say, who they just reacquired, by the way. This has gone really badly since they decided to trade Halliburton and keep De'Aaron Fox. Even though that was a good 1-for-1 trade at the time between Sabonis and Halliburton, it's just that Halliburton became a monster. Brooklyn, bad as expected. The team that we all expected to be the worst in basketball is, well, pretty much somehow close to that. They aren't the worst by record, but they are still relatively bad. And the Nets are a team that no one's really paying attention to, with good reason, because there's just not much there to really pay attention to. They're going to be awful, and they're going to have a very, very high draft pick in theory. The real question is, how high will this draft pick be? New Orleans. Atlanta's enjoying this. Now, normally when it comes to New Orleans and Atlanta, and those two teams playing each other in their respective cities, we're talking Falcons and Saints, and Atlanta and New Orleans Schadenfreude is all-time legendary towards the opposite city. But this is a different level of Schadenfreude. The fact that the Pelicans were impulsive enough to trade up in last year's draft to give up their first-round pick for this year unprotected is wild. And the fact that the Pelicans are once again awful, despite their talent, is also pretty bad. Meaning Atlanta, despite losing their right to swap with San Antonio for their first-round pick, they still end up with a very high one, even with that swap, because of the Pelicans being terrible. So, yeah, Atlanta, despite flipping Trae Young, which they had to do, they are able to be perfectly fine because New Orleans is just awful still. Even though Zion's been relatively healthy this year and pretty productive, I will say that for his sake. Indiana, understood gap year. I think we all got it. I think we all got the message with the Pacers being pretty bad because they lost Miles Turner and obviously the injury to Tyrese Halliburton, the torn Achilles. We all kind of understood, like, okay, the Pacers are going to be pretty rough, and we'll see them in 2026/27. We'll see them coming up in the fall of this year. But until then, Indiana, just take your medicine, take your lumps, and then go get you another big in this draft if you can so choose. And we'll see you back in October when you have Halliburton presumably back and when you have a full roster ready to go and try to get back to the NBA Finals. Because I think the Pacers, fully healthy, can be good. They just need to get their best player back in Halliburton and get a big to replace Turner. And I think they may be fine after that. Washington, way more interesting. This Wizards team, compared to the one that I saw live and in person when the Spurs played them and destroyed them down in D.C., is far more interesting than that one. This is before they traded for Trae Young. This is before, obviously, they traded for Anthony Davis. Now they're a way more interesting bad team as opposed to a pretty sluggish bad team when their jumpers aren't falling. And that night they weren't for a good amount of that game. I will say this for the Wizards. I think they could be fun. Is it too late to make the playoffs this year? I'd say yes. But at the very least, Trae Young to Anthony Davis on pick and rolls, I think could be very entertaining. And Davis and Sarr together in the front court, I think could be pretty intimidating, quite honestly, because Sarr is a decent defensive player, and Anthony Davis, when healthy, is a very good defensive player. The whole health part is the key, though. Can he be healthy? We're going to kind of need to see that soon. Speaking of Anthony Davis, the team that just traded him, Dallas, 369 days. Imagine where you were January 31st, 2025. This is the night before Luka Doncic was traded from Dallas to the Lakers, and everything was normal for the Mavericks. They had just made the NBA Finals. They had a real shot to get back there with Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving, and the rest of that crew. And then February 1st happens. While a lot of us are watching the Royal Rumble and getting closer to the end where Jey Uso actually won that particular match, we got the Luka Doncic trade, and it's like, what just happened? It's like the NBA world was all hit with a collective nuke, knowing that the Lakers just got the generational piece and franchise savior for the next decade or so. And we all wondered who the GM was, Nico Harrison, and there were several threads, none of them quite nice, for Nico Harrison. And then we fast forward almost a year and change, over a year and change later, and Anthony Davis gets traded for a whole lot less than what you gave up to get it. Yikes. You got picks from the Wizards, cool, fine, but it's brutal what you gave up to get Anthony Davis, and knowing that you barely got anything out of Anthony Davis due to a bunch of injuries, and you also lose Kyrie Irving to the torn ACL, and it's just a complete disaster. Sure, Cooper Flagg looks like a menace. He played really well against the Rockets the other night, but it's a really ugly year and change for the Dallas Mavericks as they now have to all of a sudden super rebuild and really consider the thought of the mega tank. And Utah, strong front line. Like I mentioned in the little preview, Triple J, Lauri Markkanen, Walker Kessler. You got three legitimately solid frontline pieces and frontline starters. Triple J is one of the best defensive players in the game. Walker Kessler is probably on a couple of tiers below, but still really good defensively as well. Both can play center, but at least Triple J can play the forward part. Markkanen doesn't do defense, but he does do shooting, and is an all-star, formerly. I do wonder what happens with Kessler. Do they flip him for a team that needs a big? I would probably try to do that if I were Utah, to see if I can get some more picks and or some sort of scoring, because the Jazz still aren't great at that. And I would love to see like an off-season trade or something where the Jazz flip him to the Pacers, and by him I mean Kessler, and Indiana gives him like a shooter or two. I would love to see that. At least give both teams something that they desperately need. Indiana needs some size, and Utah needs some scoring punch. That would at least be kind of nice. I'd like to see that. Now let's go to the fork in the road monkey's paws here. We're going to Birmingham, Alabama, of course. Memphis, constructing a tank. Over the last, we can't even say year, we can say the last, 9 months or so, the Memphis Grizzlies have traded their 2 best players and might trade their 3rd. We've seen them trade Desmond Bane and get a bunch of picks back, which, to be honest, isn't an awful trade, I will say. They got a bunch of picks from Orlando, who's a mediocre team this year, and at the very least, they got some more things to work with. When the Grizzlies have been at their best, they have had a bunch of depth. This can certainly help in replenishing that. And then they get a few more picks for Triple J. I think that's a really good look, getting a bunch of picks for an excellent defensive center. That would be a generally good look if they knew how to use those picks wisely to replenish the people that they've lost. Then there's John Morant, who they probably could have traded a little bit ago and opted not to. And now it's a matter of what can you actually get for Ja. You're going to have to trade him for, it would feel like 60 cents on the dollar because of all his off-court issues and his injuries. Miami, I think, would still pay that price, but how many other teams would? Milwaukee. Is Giannis gone? Are you actually going to trade this man? It feels like you probably should, because that body's going to break down because of how physical he is and how much time he genuinely has left as a high-tier, S-tier player. He's still one of those guys. He's still a top 5 guy in this league. There's no question in that. I just worry and am concerned that Milwaukee is going to hold on to him for far too long and get 60 cents on the dollar, and maybe even less at this point. People around here, and by around here I mean Philly, have been kind of wondering, do we dare flip VJ Edgecombe as part of a deal to get Giannis? If I'm the Sixers, I absolutely do it. If I'm Milwaukee, I'm going to need some more stuff, but I absolutely do VJ Edgecombe as part of a Giannis deal if I could. If I'm Milwaukee, I'd probably take it because him and Rollins could be a pretty good backcourt together. Portland, Avdija's ascension. Demi Avdija, since being traded from the Wizards to Portland, has turned into a very good player. He has turned into an all-star and has had his breakout monster season. He's currently injured, yes, but he is still a pretty talented, pretty solid player. I think he's turned himself into a pretty good player, to be honest. Can he be most improved? It feels like he is. It feels like he's on his way there. I think that would be a really good quality award for him because he's done so well this season. There will be several people that you can also win this award, but Demi Avdija is obviously going to be amongst this list. All-star aside, Portland has been a mess lately. They've lost a bunch of games in a row and have suddenly plummeted kind of back down to, we're not very good. They beat the Thunder, which was good, but then again, the Spurs have done it 3 times and may do it a 4th tonight as this recording is going on. But it has not been great for the Blazers otherwise. They still need that frontline star, to be honest, whether it's in the backcourt or in the front court, that's up to them. But they still need that frontline guy because Scoot Henderson just has not taken that step forward, unfortunately. At least they can wait a year, maybe get Dame back for the 26-27 season, but it's just not looking nice for the Blazers. LA Clippers, latest Harden X. And they're the latest team to trade James Harden because James Harden just can't stay faithful to the team that he's on. He can't seem to be happy or find happiness with the team that he is on. Now, I do like getting Darius Garland back if I'm the Clippers. I do like that for them in the sense of now they have a pure point guard because the Chris Paul stuff didn't work out. And they can move with Garland and Kawhi Leonard, who's had a good season, and the rest of that crew out in Los Angeles. Is it still too late for them to win a championship? Probably, because the teams that are heavyweights in the Western Conference are all pretty nasty, and I think are all bad matchups for the Clippers. But at the very least, they'll have a fighting chance, I would think, to make the play-in. I don't know if they get any further than that, to be honest, considering who's going to be the 1 and 2 seeds in the Western Conference. Chicago, mid as usual. It's only a matter of time for the Bulls end up in the 8-9 or the 7-10 matchups because that's where they are. That's their lot in life. They are that team that's always in the play-in game, and somehow, win or lose, they will find a way to be anywhere from 7 to 10. It's just their lot in life. Trading Vucevic to Boston gives them an interesting wing in Anthony Simons, and it kind of helps them sort of replace the wings that they traded away, in the sense of Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan last year. Okay, cool. I guess that's a thing. It's just that Chicago just doesn't have that number one guy. And because they don't have the number one guy, they just can't move forward. And I think they're stuck until they do such a thing. Whether they draft him or they acquire him in a trade between now and tomorrow at 3 in the afternoon, or today at 3 in the afternoon, as when this recording finally drops. Chicago's going to be in some trouble and stuck. Atlanta, swap won't hurt. Like I said with the Hawks, they're going to get a high pick due to the Pelicans being terrible. But the other situation they have, and the other first-round pick they're going to have, is with San Antonio. Fortunately for them, they're doing actually pretty decent. And though they may be in the lottery again, it's not going to be anywhere near as high as a lot of people would have thought, because the Hawks are playing at least decent ball. Now, they could still get unlucky with the lottery gods, and if they did, then sure, San Antonio could swipe in and get a high pick, but that doesn't seem all that likely now, and it may end up being a situation like last year, where the Hawks are at the very end of the draft lottery, and that pick's just not theirs. It doesn't hurt too bad, considering where the Pelicans pick is probably going to land. And Charlotte, actual progress. If you would have told me that the Hornets were going to be this late in these power rankings, I would be absolutely stunned. Yet, they have earned this. They've won 8 straight. They've been the hottest team in the game as of now. They just beat the Spurs on Saturday. Yes, a lot of weather was chaotic, but the Hornets have played really well, and all their guys have stayed relatively healthy. Bridges and Brandon Miller and LaMelo Ball, I should say. They've all played well. The Hornets as a team have played well. They've taken some steps forward, and that's great to see as a team that's been sluggish and struggling and downright awful for years now. Konkanupos had a very good year as a rookie as well. They've done well here. I like where Charlotte is going. Keep it going. Can they eventually get a center to make it work and replace what they lost in Mark Williams? Okay, probably. But thus far, this is a good sign for a Charlotte team that's horribly needed to show signs of life. I'm proud of you, Hornets. Keep going. And keep wearing those teal uniforms, because they are super dope. And now let's go to Wilmington, Delaware for the playoff tier. Golden State, alarming without Steph. I think we all knew this. We all knew that Golden State, without Steph Curry, just doesn't have that same punch. Now, when Steph's in the lineup, he cooks. He dominates everything in front of him because he's still an excellent shooter. But without Steph, this team is drastically different and drastically incapable of keeping up with anybody with a competent offense. For proof on this, watch the game with the Sixers on Tuesday night, where BJ Edgecombe and company cooked, and the Warriors just could not keep up at all without Steph Curry. It was just unfortunate, but it happened. With Steph, they're still relatively decent at contending, even without Jimmy Butler after the ACL injury that Butler had. But they just don't have the horses, I don't think. And can y'all please figure out something with Kuminga? Because this is getting annoying now. This is just getting ridiculous. Can y'all just trade Kuminga and get it over with for everybody's sake? Orlando, still kind of mid. I'm a little disappointed. I think if I had a league's most disappointing team this year, it's these guys. I thought Orlando was going to take a step forward after Wagner and Paolo Banchero and Jalen Suggs and company, where they showed they had really good defense. They were never the greatest shooting team, but they showed really good defense. And it looked like, okay, the Magic are on the come up. They're moving. They can move forward. Give up a lot to get them, but okay, they can move forward here. They got themselves a shooter to go with all that defense, and Banchero and Wagner, who have been matchup nightmares when they're playing. Even though when they play together, they don't seem to do as well as when only one of them plays. That's a little wild. But still, it looked like, okay, they're on the come up. But now they're still mediocre. And to be honest, that's disappointing. I really did expect Orlando to make a jump and make a jump maybe into the top 3 or 4 teams in the Eastern Conference. I really kind of expected that, and we just never got there. And we're probably not going to get there with the way that the higher tier teams in the Eastern Conference are actually playing. Disappointed in you, Magic. I thought you'd be better. Miami, do something. I am so serious. This is also annoying for the Heat. Are you guys going to trade for a higher tier player, or are you going to tank? What are you going to do with this? Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo are good players. They are. Neither is the best player on a championship team. Eric Spoelstra and company do better when you have a alpha guy, a guy who you can consider best player on championship team level status. They haven't had one since Jimmy Butler, obviously. Can Ja Morant be that? At his very best, he's shown that he's got a real shot to be. The problem is we don't really expect him to be at his very best. And putting him in Miami, I think it'd be the very worst thing to happen to Ja Morant, considering what he's done in his lifestyle. I don't know if I want that. Sure, the Heat would want that kind of, at least Heat fans seem to want that allure. They seem to want that kind of energy, that kind of lightning rod, that kind of spark. But I don't think that's a good idea for Miami. I think they're better off selling, because I just don't see where they're really going to go here. I like Khalil Ware. I think Ware could be a legitimately good player with given more time. Jaime Jaquez, decent role player. But again, they need an alpha. If they're ever going to win a title, they need an alpha. They just don't have, I don't know if they have the resources to get one, if they don't want to pull the trigger on trading away Hero or Adebayo. Toronto, winning with defense. Surprisingly, the Raptors have a top 5 defense in the NBA in terms of points allowed per game. That's impressive looking. RJ Barrett and Scotty Barnes and company are doing a real good job, I will say, on that front. The shooting can be better, the scoring can be better, but the defense is doing its part, and that is to be commended. And at least they're moving forward, considering what last year was and how frustrating Toronto has been. And obviously, Brandon Ingram as well, playing pretty well. How frustrating this team has been over the last few years. It's good to see that they are moving forward. That is a good sign. Can Toronto parlay this to a playoff berth and get back there once again? We'll see. Cleveland. Does Harden fit? In theory, you would think he maybe does. He could obviously run point for a Cleveland team that obviously had one in Garland, but it felt like him and Donovan Mitchell, Garland, somehow didn't connect, and it did not gel well. Can Harden gel well with Donovan Mitchell and take some of the scoring load off of him? Sure he could. My concern is the ISO offense, where Harden's very ISO, very ball dependent. How well does that fit with Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley and Jared Allen? How well does that fit with those guys? And the pick and roll in theory is going to work out well with Mobley and Allen, sure. But I do wonder how Harden's going to work out with a Cavalier team that is also kind of sort of underachieved this year. Were they going to keep up that pace they had last year? Maybe not. But the fact that it feels like the highest ceiling they have is round 2, and we wouldn't even be shocked if they're out round 2, that's a little disappointing. Minnesota, Randall getting assists. And here's why I say this. He leads the team in assists. That's a little weird to me. Sure, Anthony Edwards is balling out pretty well, and Randall and Gobert are doing their thing, and they're doing fine. Minnesota still got decent depth. Okay, cool. Naz Reid's still a pretty good, serviceable backup big. Understood. Or swing big when you need him. Understood. Got it. The fact that their point guard contributions is a little sluggish, I guess we could say, especially in the assist department. A little disappointing, and if Minnesota could trade for a point guard, I think that would be quite nice. I'm just concerned about how much they'd have to do so after, obviously, the whole Gobert trade and all that. But can Minnesota make a move to get a point guard, a pure one, to help out Randall and Edwards and Gobert and the rest of that crew? This is a good team. I don't know if they're getting back to the conference finals good, but they're good. Philadelphia, good McCain trade. They sold high on McCain. And yes, McCain had a good rookie season, but obviously he's been replaced by VJ Edgecombe, who has turned out to be a very solid rookie. Now, I think getting a first-round pick back from the Thunder, it won't be that high, of course, because the Thunder are kind of good at this whole basketball thing. But getting a first-round pick for the Thunder, getting some other smaller second-round picks, I think is a pretty solid deal for a rookie that clearly got usurped by a newer rookie and Edgecombe. So I don't hate this. Getting Joel Embiid to be a pretty decent player and not all world, okay, good, as long as he's healthy, which sometimes he does miss games, because of course he does. And Tyrese Maxey has done a good job of kind of sort of suddenly taking over as best player on the Sixers. We figured it was happening at some point in time. It's probably good that it happened sooner rather than later. Is Maxey the best player on a champion? I'd probably still say no. But he's still the best player on a good team, which the Sixers are. And they've been one of the hotter teams in the game as of late. And Phoenix, top 5 defense. The Suns actually do have a top 5 defense in terms of points allowed. Good work on Phoenix's part. Devin Booker, obviously doing his thing, has done pretty well on the offensive side, even though the offense can be kind of sluggish. That's not great. Still, the Suns have done well with Williams and company, obviously Williams in the paint, and the Suns kind of with a whole being greater than the sum of its parts type of team, where it's strength and defensive numbers, where they're able to move around, and obviously Booker doing his part on the scoring front of it. They are doing a respectable job in pretty much every facet, and that's to be commended. I don't think they have enough to deal with the top 4 in the Western Conference, but Phoenix, I think, can give any of them a scare in round 1 if they, no matter who they are able to play, as long as they have the 5 or 6 seed. And now let's get to Moynihan and New York City for the title tier. LA Lakers, great trio, but is it enough defensively? I am very concerned about that defensive side of the ball. Do they have enough? And can LeBron, Austin Reeves, and Luka Doncic, all 3 of them, stay healthy simultaneously to help matters? The 3 of them, you can probably get 75, 80 points from them. Can you get 35 to 40 from everyone else? That's going to be the big question mark to me coming down the stretch. I don't think the Lakers are going to have enough to really trade for anyone significant in terms of name value. But if they have enough depth, the Lakers could scare people. But the key is the part of the depth. That means you, Roy Hachimura and company, can you show yourselves? And can anybody show themselves inside? Because if they have to deal with a big inside for a best-of-7 series, I don't like their chances there. Boston, how many souls? No, seriously, how many souls did you guys have to sell for all of a sudden all 4 of the Boston teams being good again? The Patriots, well documented, we get it. The Red Sox have the best rotation in baseball, and though they lost Alex Bregman, they're still going to be a really good team overall. The Bruins, they were awful last year and now are looking pretty good at this moment in time. And the Bruins could make it back to the playoffs soon enough. And then there's these guys. The Celtics, they lose Jason Tatum. Okay, fine. Boston's going to plummet. Cool, fine. Whatever. No, they don't. Jaylen Brown's cooking, and Jaylen Brown's playing really well. And the Celtics as a team are playing really well. They made a buyer move to go and, okay, we're going to give Vucevic to be that stretch 4 that they had last year with Porzingis. All right, good. Boston could be good again, as in great again. As in they could challenge the Knicks and or Pistons in the Eastern Conference type of time. That's not great for anyone else. Yeesh. How many souls did you guys sell to make this happen where all 4 of these teams are good? Denver, God knows Jokic. Because of course he is. And he is the best player in the league without question. Will he win MVP? Well, it's him, and it's Wembanyama, and maybe 1 or 2 other guys who I think are like your real contenders for most valuable player at this moment in time. Maybe SGA. But Jokic has been an absolute menace. Let's see. He's averaging 29, 10, and 11 thus far this year. And he's dropping 50-piece triple-doubles like they're going like there's nothing to him. That's how dominant Jokic has been this year. And he's been obviously the best player. Jamal Murray continuing to cook. And the Nuggets in general are a very good team. And you would think they're as high as the 2 seed. And as their floor is the 4 seed. And in any case, that's a team that can step to anybody in the Western Conference. And if Denver came out the West, I don't think anybody would be shocked. New York, do they deal? Now, these 2 teams played each other tonight at the Garden, and Jalen Brunson with a 40-burger basically beat out Jamal Murray and Jokic to make that happen, despite Anthony Towns fouling out in the first overtime. This was a really good game, by the way. The Knicks have had a tremendous season, as we expected. We expected them to be the 1 or the 2 seed in the East, and they have lived up as advertised. Brunson's been great. Anthony Towns has been good. They've gotten good shooting overall. They've been a very solid, well-rounded team pretty much all the way through their roster. That is great work by New York. Do they make a deal to go over the top? Are they going to go after Giannis and go all in and be impulsive? Is that what the Knicks are going to do now? A question I would need to see answered, we'll all need to see answered by 3. To be honest, I'm not sure they have to. The Knicks are good enough, I think, to at the very least get to the conference finals again and maybe come out the East this year as they are. Unless Detroit makes a move, at which point then, yeah, you might want to counter that. Houston, stealing possessions. This is the best offensive rebounding team in basketball. And with Şengün and Durant and Jabari Smith and company holding it down in the paint, you can see why that is. They also shoot fairly well. They're a pretty good team when it comes to getting their perimeter shots in. When they're missing it, it could be problems. But if Reed Shepherd and Durant and even occasionally Şengün and all those guys are hitting their shots, it can be problematic for anybody. The Rockets are a pretty good team, and it kind of has to be, considering Durant can leave after this season, and your moves for giving up a lot of that youth to get KD would be for naught. They got to have it now, and if they don't get it now, it's a little disappointing. Detroit, best in East. They have looked like it. They are gritty, and they are tough, and they got dudes everywhere. Cade Cunningham having an excellent season, potentially MVP candidate. That's another guy I would consider in this class. He's been outstanding. And the Pistons as a team, with their defensive intensity and their defensive flexibility, the way they do business, the way they handle business, they are nasty. And they are a team that I, right now, expect to see come out the East. If I had to pick it at this moment in time, I expect them to come out the East because I think their depth is crazy. And the way Cade Cunningham has handled his, and Jaden Ivey has handled his, I like what Detroit has. And I kind of expect them, again, to come out the East at this moment in time. San Antonio, not just Wemby. Yes, as I mentioned before, Wemby looks like an MVP candidate, looks like he should absolutely be the main threat to Jokic for said award. Understood. If you wanted to say Stephen Castle's in the most improved category, yeah, you could. Dylan Harper's probably not going to make it a third straight San Antonio rookie winning Rookie of the Year, but he doesn't have to. He's coming along strong lately, but he doesn't have to do that. De'Aaron Fox doing his thing, obviously. It's the second best player, I would say, on this Spurs team until Castle firmly takes that over, and Castle's not that far behind him, to be honest. The Luke Kmet pickup has been great thus far in terms of a secondary big, and like San Antonio's, the point of it is, has a lot of really good depth surrounding Victor Wembanyama. I didn't even mention Devin Vassell yet. And Keldon Johnson, who's been a great six-man this year. Like, it's been everyone. And everyone's doing their part, even without Wembanyama, who's missed a decent amount of time at different points this year. They've all done their part, and they've all done it well. Enough shooting to get by, a lot of defense for obvious reasons. The Spurs can 100% come out the West, and with the way they played the Thunder this year, and I'm not going to count tonight because the Thunder don't have Jalen Williams, the all-star Jalen Williams. They don't have SGA, they don't have Chet Holmgren, so I'm not going to count tonight for this. San Antonio should win this game, and it looks like they're going to. They played really well against OKC, and they've matched up really well against the Thunder. The only time they really didn't was the third quarter of the fourth matchup, where the Thunder basically locked down the Spurs and said, you will not score. And that's effectively what happened there. Other than that, San Antonio's effectively dominated the other three matchups where it was a fair fight. And now, I think San Antonio, when the playoffs come around, and I expect fair fights, I think San Antonio's got a real legitimate shot to come out the West and win the title this year. That's how good I think the Spurs can be. And then we get to Oklahoma City. The best, but the injuries are a little concerning, especially to Jalen Williams, who's barely played this year. They've also had these weird stretches from time to time where they just don't either seem kind of interested or they just can't seem to put things together. Never mind the Spurs stuff. San Antonio's played really well against them 3 out of 4 times. They've gotten blown out by Charlotte once. They got beat by Portland once. they've looked rough at various different points this year. And maybe it's a thought of, okay, let's get full strength. Let's get the 1 seed if we can. And then they got a good enough lead to get the 1 seed. And then move on to the playoffs where this season really starts then. Get Chet, get SGA, get Jalen Williams back for the playoffs, and then move forward. All right, that would probably make sense. Cool if that's the route, as long as they have the 1 seed. They are still the best team offensively. They are still the best team defensively. They still have an incredible amount of depth and incredible amount of shooting. They're coached well. This is still the best team in basketball. The question is simple. Will they have enough and will they have all their guys by the time they get to the playoffs? Because the Spurs, the Rockets, and the Nuggets, I think, could all take them in the best of 7. They're not unbeatable, but they're close. They're close to that. And as I was recording, we got the big news in the NBA. Another trade just went down. The long national nightmare is over. Jonathan Kuminga's finally been traded. He got traded from the Warriors to the Hawks, and Kristaps Porzingis is going across the country to Golden State. So the Warriors actually have a big who can do some things. Now, obviously, he's not defensive, but Porzingis provides some shooting and some scoring. So maybe Golden State was listening. Good work on Golden State to get an actual decent player back for Kuminga, because the way they were kind of doing him was kind of wild. And sure, this doesn't lend well for the future per se, but at the very least, for the present, you have another decent scorer who can help out with Steph and at least give you something inside. At least there's that. And you finally end the situation with Kuminga, which I think they had to in the worst possible way, because that was just getting ridiculous at this moment in time. For the Hawks, all right, good. You got another young wing who can play. Dyson's played well, and they've gotten some really good contributions from their wings in general. Like, they're going places, I would say. Risha Sears played some decent ball. Like, they're going places, perhaps. Good work on Atlanta's part. So there you have it. We got some trades that happened and a whole lot of things going on. Buddy Hield's also going to Atlanta, by the way. And that's going to do it for these power rankings this week. Coming up tomorrow, more power rankings. But this time, we're going to convert the court to the ice. The NHL, all 32 teams. The Antonio Panarin trade, I will obviously talk about it with the LA Kings and the Rangers. The Rangers will be mentioned very early in the power rankings for the NHL. How early? Well, we'll see who will join them in Fulton, Kentucky, as that will be the first stop of my next train of thought.